How are we doing, everybody? It is Ross and welcome to the 1% Daily Show. And I've got to apologise because every time I've been doing my shows recently, I've been coming on and going, look, it's been a minute since I've done my last podcast. But it has actually been another minute and I have loads to be doing, but still no excuse because I actually enjoy doing these podcasts so much. And I will get to you by the end of this month 3 more podcasts. So I've got 4 for the month. This will be the first or the second. I've done a couple. But yes, I'm here. If you are new to the 1% Daily Show, 1% of your day is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. That's how long this show will go for. That's why I will probably wrap it up right at the end. I'll be like, I'm sorry for another time, and I'll just cut the story off. So the whole premise behind the 1% Daily is if you can look to improve yourself by any shape or form, start with at least 1% of your day dedicated towards that improvement. Because people I work with in my consultancy, they'll tell me they've got no time, and I was like, no, you do. It's just not a priority enough, and I don't know where to start. So I say, look, start small, start with 1% of your day, and that's a good place to map out where you want to be and how you want to get there, and then just simply start. So your 1% for your day today may be just simply listening to me talk to you about what I do in life, what I learn from my clients, what I've learned from all the problems and the mistakes I make, what I learn from all the journals and the articles that I read. And usually when it comes to a theme for a podcast, I will have been listening to something or a book on Audible, and I will quickly be in my car and I'll say, Apple or Hey Siri, can you remind me? And I will set a reminder. And the one I wanted to talk about today was what is in your diet. And this came off the back of a conversation I've been having with quite a few people. There's been a new movie out called Game Changers, and it's a plant-based podcast. And actually I'm so glad I've not recorded this podcast when I was going to last week, because after Game Changers came out, there was a podcast with Joe Rogan, who's like the king of podcasts, and it was a guy on there who just came on to completely like debunk all of the facts and stuff that was thrown into the Game Changers movie. I didn't watch it because I kind of didn't want to get involved in all the hype, because I'm a big fan of the film Game Changers. But what I did watch was then there was a follow-on podcast where they brought the director of Game Changers onto the podcast, and he defended every single point of the conversation. So I did watch that, and then off the back of that, it all comes down to what are people consuming and what's in your diet. But actually, when I was in the car the other day and I was thinking about this, it comes down to what are we consuming full stop. And I don't just call it at food. When I say to you what is in your diet, I am talking about everything in your life that you expose yourself to. So that's the people you hang out with, that's the food you consume, that's the music you listen to, that's the information that you consume, it's the energy that you share and exchange with other people. And if you were to break it down and actually get into it, I think you'd be quite surprised about what happens, because we are all, every day and every moment of each day, we are consuming something. Okay, we are consuming energy, we are consuming conversations, we are consuming knowledge. And I ask you now, what are you consuming? What's in your diet? And everyone jumps on the food bandwagon, and great, it's a cool place to start. But let's move past that for now. I'm not saying it's not an important place anything to talk about, but let's move past just your diet when it comes to what you're consuming. Because I've had conversations with parents who, they will talk to me, and because they know I'm plant-based and I'm pretty healthy and they think I've got my shit together, I'm not going to argue with them, but I'm not necessarily fully agreeing with them as well. They will say to me that they took their kids to McDonald's. And the only time I would ever justify somebody going to McDonald's, for example, because I'm not a fan of McDonald's, I don't think it's great, but the only time I'd ever justify the McDonald's experience being okay is if that parent, if it's the first opportunity that parent has had to sit down with their kids all week and have a good conversation with them, then of course I'm going to say go to McDonald's and do it, okay? Because the bigger picture around that one meal is going to be far greater than the impact of what the meal does on them. It's not going to be healthy for them, but the conversation, the relationship they spark up or they grow or nurture in that conversation is far better. Because that's what I mean when we talk about what are we consuming, because the information that could be shared between that mother and son, might be a dad and his kids or a dad and his wife, in the McDonald's is actually going to be far better than the food. And I think we need to be a little bit more interested in what we're consuming and a little bit more concerned about what's going on in our lives. And this only really kind of like kicked into me when actually I did go plant-based. I'm not saying it's because I went plant-based, but it was really around the time where my wife Sarah was pregnant with our first kid, Bear. And I became so conscious of what was coming into my life. And I remember the first thing I started to cut out. The first thing I started to cut out was news. Because, and you can play this game, when was the last time you heard a good news story? Like an actual nice news story, like you heard something on the news on the radio, or you watched something on TV that didn't start with rape, murder, fraud, sexual abuse, I don't know, somebody was assaulted, somebody was killed. When's the last time you actually did that and it wasn't about that? And there's definitely something to be said about consuming all this negative energy, negative information around what's going on in the world, because this stuff doesn't directly impact my life. If I hear it, if I don't. If it's important enough, it will get into my life and into my sort of ether around me, because it will come to me via social media or a friend, or we'll have a talk about it. But when it comes to the constant bombardment of negative energy and negative news, I'm not about that life anymore. So I just stopped consuming news straight away. And you know what? I think it was James Ashford told me this, and it was one of the best things I ever did, was stopping listening to the news and watching news, because I just didn't need that negativity in my life. And I remember playing the game when we had the kids in the car, and Bear was a little bit older because he made a comment, and something came on the radio about, I don't know if it was murder or rape or something, but he then repeated the words and said, "What's that?" And I was like, shit, how am I going to explain to my kid about this? So that was it. I just blocked that out of my life. And I've done that in lots of areas of my life, and it's actually improved the relationships that I have now with people, and also the relationships other people have with me as well, because negativity, for example, is something that we are around, and we put ourselves in these positions where we can either be a part of it or not. And I always use the example of my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. They're not together, they're divorced, and we don't necessarily see each other as much as we used to, but that's actually a good thing. So for example, my mother-in-law, she is a fantastic woman, and I joke with my wife because she thinks I hate her. I don't hate her. She just winds me up sometimes, but that's fine. But I would never say a bad word about her. She's a really, really good person. And actually, our relationship is better now. Throw it back 10 years, I worked with her in the same PE department. And we used to clash all the time. And then when I left teaching, I left the school, our relationship actually began to improve. But it was little things like she'd come round to the house, and she'd come round and see the kids or the dogs. And I'd go out, and my wife was like, "Oh, you didn't stay and speak to my mum." It's sometimes a bit rude. And I was like, "Look, your mum didn't come round to the house to see me. She came round to see the kids or the dogs." And that's okay. Or I think it was a couple of years ago when I was picking the kids up, she said, "Oh, you didn't stay in for a cup of tea," or "You always seem to be just in and out." And I was like, "Yeah, but that's okay, because when I ask your mum how her day's been, I genuinely mean it, as in I give a shit. I ask her, she gives me a response, she asks me how my day was, and that's it. We share that little bit of information, and then we go. And it's fine, it's really okay, and we actually get on so much better now because we've sort of managed our own interactions. Now, flip that to her father. I mean, again, Dad, a cool person, but we're sort of like, we disagree on some stuff, and because of that, I limit my time in his presence. But that's fine. You have to do that. And it might be that there's other family members or friends that you need to cut out of your life because of the negative impact that they have. But that's okay. You've got to put yourself first. So when I'm talking to you about what do you consume, what's in your diet, I literally mean everything. And if you were to take the examples of food, you would say that a healthy, balanced diet, a healthy diet is balanced. It's varied, okay? It comes in all different colours, different textures. The things have different impacts, and you'll consume different amounts. Same goes for the other stuff that you consume in this world, okay? So if I want to find out the stuff that's going on in the news, I will selectively find websites. I'll selectively find magazines or newspapers. I don't read newspapers so much, but I do read a magazine called The Week, which to be fair, I started reading that when I was going through training with the Royal Marines. And it's very concurrent, it's very sort of up to date, it's very specific about certain topics. And I will buy that and I'll read it, but I'll buy it every couple of months. All the other stuff I don't get involved with. So I've limited my consumption of this negative energy. I'm controlling it coming into my life. Same with people, same with positive and negative people. You need to vary the amount of people in your lives and the types of people in your lives. You can't be with the overpowering, energetic person all the time, because it will be overpowering and it will sort of drain you. But you need to have them in your toolkit to go to when you need a pick-me-up. So as energetic and crazy as I am, I have people that I go to that are on the same level or above me, but I can't be around them all the day, and vice versa. People can't be around me all the day. We were joking about it in the office here the other day. My business partner Frank was talking about how he'd said to the rest of the office space that they were happy because they'd taken Frank had me in a meeting room all day doing work. And that's cool, I get that, because that's how the world works. But you're in control of all that stuff, okay? So you need to start to, a bit like your food consumption, you need to get some variety in your life, okay? Different colours. So when I talk about that, it's a bit of a running joke, but by that I mean different cultures. If you're talking about people here, you need to be exposing yourself to people of different race, different cultures, different understandings, different beliefs, different religions, all these things, because it adds texture to your life. So my wife and I were talking about this the other day because Bear and Aria, they get on really well with Sarah's basketball team. And on Sarah's basketball team, there are girls from Portugal, from America. I think there's a Polish girl, a Spanish girl. And these girls are white, they're black. I think there's one of the girls, is she Indian? No, she's not playing there anymore. But they're of different race. And it's just now the norm for our kids to hang out with people of different colour, different language, different beliefs, so that's it. So a couple of the girls are lesbians, and this is great for our kids because it's just part of the norm in society. But we had a conversation the other night about if we were to throw back to when we were at school, what was it like for us? Did we know any black people at school? Did we know any people who were same-sex relationships? Did we know anybody who had different religious beliefs? And we kind of knew one or two, but it was very limited. But we actually were exposed to more because we played basketball. And actually, for our kids growing up, it's really, really important that they're around that stuff. But I challenge you as adults, parents, friends, teenagers, whoever's listening to this, I challenge you to look at what you're consuming within your environment, what you're consuming within your daily routines, okay? Because more than likely, it's limited. So I need you to be looking at, right, what can I do with regards to speaking to different people? What can you do with regards to understanding different beliefs, stuff that's going to add to you as a person and add to your impact on other people. Because it's very easy to sit there and go, look, I don't need to learn, I don't need to take on any more information, I'm good with where I am. That's cool, you can do that, but you're not going to get anywhere in life. You're not going to improve, you're not going to become a better person, you're not going to be more well-rounded. You're more than likely going to cut yourself out from people, and it's going to end potentially in disaster. If you are in a place where you're not going to improve or grow or learn or understand, people will fall out of you. You could potentially end up lonely and just not a nice person. And I don't think people are inherently not nice. I actually think the complete opposite. I think people are inherently nice, but we are influenced by our experiences and people around us, how we grew up. So my challenge to you now for this kind of last 40 seconds is to think about what you're doing in your life. And I'll go back to this diet of what you're consuming. Your diet should be balanced, varied, different colours, textures. It will have different impacts on you and different amounts. So you need to start to manage. Are you consuming lots of positive vibes in your life, or are there times where you hang around with negative people? Get rid of those negative people in your life. You don't need them in your life, okay? Replace the news with social media, decent conversations, The Week, different magazines, okay? Because what you take into your body has an impact on the type of person you are, okay? Guys, this has been Roscoe. This has been the 1% Daily Show. Okay, remember, life is one big game. Make sure you play it your way and maximize your potential. Bye-bye, guys.